Hey guys, welcome back to the Ocean Lovers podcast. We are so excited to be here for episode 2, and I am here with Erica, of course.
Hi.
And we have a special guest on here today, and I'm so excited.
Me too. So I'm so excited to bring her into the conversation because this is somebody that I met when we were doing research up in British Columbia on whales. And we've stayed in touch this whole time, and that was way back in 2015, I think. And when I was living in Washington working on a whale watch there, Kara came and visited me. And so we really haven't had a chance to catch up since then. It's been like 2 years. So I'm so excited. So my friend Kara Henderlight is on the line.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. So excited.
Yes.
Of course. We're so excited. I heard Erica told me the other day, she's like, yeah, she went to Iceland and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I have to hear about this. I have to.
Yes.
I'm here for it. Yes.
Yes. So Kara, okay. So in the last podcast, we kind of went into our backgrounds and how we kind of went through our marine biology journeys and like where we're at now. And I would love for you to like start at the beginning of your story and totally bring us up to date on everything that you've done that's, kind of marine biology related, because I know that you've been doing this for such a long time too. And I'm so excited to hear about everything new that you've been doing.
Me too.
So
yes.
take the mic.
Okay. So very similar to Erica, actually, did not grow up by the ocean. I'm from Tennessee originally, so very intercoastal, no lakes, no big lakes, no rivers, no bodies of water to, explore. So from a young age, I decided that I wanted to be a vet because I love animals. And then as I got older, I realized you potentially have to put them to sleep and stuff like that, and I just couldn't handle it. So I was like,
me
well,
neither.
what am I gonna, that was tough. Especially as a kid, you're like, oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So this girl in my neighborhood, I just remember very distinctly, we were swimming in our pool in our backyard, and this girl from the neighborhood came over and she was like, I'm gonna be a marine biologist. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, study whales and dolphins. I was like, me too.
Oh,
you're like, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. I had
that's so awesome.
Yeah, I had the Baywatch Barbie that had like the little dolphin that came with it. It was just,
oh my god.
Yeah. It was like a whole thing. So that was like when I kind of realized like that's kind of what I wanted to do. And of course, kind of being in Tennessee, just going to the ocean for like vacation, kind of fueled that fire where I didn't have it every day, but it lured me in because I was like, oh, I don't get to see it every day. So kind of, you always want what you can't have kind of thing. So it drove that for me. But like some of you, I think both of you might have mentioned, and I think a lot of people have similar experiences. I wanted initially to be a trainer at SeaWorld.
Yep.
I think all little girls or little kids, you know, kind of drive, that's like what's pushing them is like you see these people with those connections. So I kind of went back and forth when I was like in my after high school, early adult years, if I wanted to stay in Tennessee and just kind of like live my life. I was dating a guy at the time, and I was like, I would be fine staying here and just kind of having a job and spending my life in Tennessee. But then something just like clicked to me, and I was like, no, you got to follow your dreams. You got to do something that you love. So I got my associate's degree in Tennessee in just like general science, and I transferred up here to where I currently live in Wisconsin. Yes, I know there's no ocean here. People tell me that all the time.
But that's what I love. That's what I absolutely love about your like story, is because you are making it happen. Like you are an example that you can live inland and still be super active in marine biology and make a real difference.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so impressed by you.
Yeah. And it did take some time, so I came up here and I started there's a program at this university called Carroll University in Waukesha where I live. And they have an animal behavior program, and it's actually like a really popular one in the States. It's one of very few. There's not a ton of animal behavior opportunities. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And I'm
so
going
funny. Sorry, I just have to. We're like so similar because that's what when I wanted to study animal behavior, I had the choice of only like 2 universities. One of them was where you go, and one of them was in Maine where I went. So it's just so funny.
Yeah.
I think if you guys just went to the same one.
I know.
That would have been crazy.
That would have been so crazy.
Oh my gosh, that would have been, just in a whole nother lifetime.
Yeah. So it's very limited for animal behavior specifically. So I came up here in Wisconsin and started in animal behavior. You have to do like an internship with obviously animals and behavior kind of to get your degree. So I actually had secured one at what's called Oceans of Fun at the Milwaukee County Zoo, and it's the seals and sea lion. It's their kind of show and exhibit stuff.
Yeah.
And that was about also the same time that Blackfish came out.
Oh really? Oh goodness. I feel like that's just
so that was like a ripple in the effect for sure.
So I bet
I was really interested in seeing Blackfish because I had that desire to work at SeaWorld, and then I was like, but as you get older you kind of realize like, oh, it's not, it's a little different than what you thought as a kid. So I went and saw Blackfish, sobbing the whole time, like I'm a softie. So after that movie, I was like, okay, like my views changed. I was like, I was early 20s when I still wanted to work at SeaWorld. So like then I was like, started to feel a little guilty and was just kind of like, how could I want to have done this? And so I still kept my internship because I hadn't started it yet, and I just had secured it. And then I was like, so maybe I don't feel that way about small marine mammals. Maybe it's just orcas and dolphins that travel really far. So I kept it, and I went for a few days. And after literally it was just a few days, I was like, I can't do this.
Really?
Yeah. So which is it's a very it's a personal decision, and it is very controversial and a polar kind of, you either kind of do or you don't. And I was kind of stuck in the middle, but at that point I realized that I was definitely a don't, like I just can't I just can't do it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that kind of flipped everything on its head for me, because that's definitely was like what my goal was, and now I'm just like, what do I do now? I was like stuck. So I ended up changing my major to environmental science. So I was like,
oh wow,
I'll just still something interesting, and it's kind of covers a more broad topic, and that way I could help with like saving or conserving the environment that these animals live in, awareness, stuff like that. Cool. So I changed environmental science, graduated, and then was like, okay, now what? Well, I think like everyone has that, now what do I do? That's
I totally relate.
Yeah.
I was about to say, Erica, you said the exact same thing in the last episode. When you were done, you're like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah, I know. And I ended up moving to North Dakota. Totally so we all have that moment.
Yeah.
So that's actually when I started looking on Marmam, the email list that Erica mentioned. And was like looking kind of just for something, because I needed to get my foot in the door with conservation and stuff like that, that wasn't the Oceans of Fun and wasn't kind of in a captive setting, which is hard to do in Wisconsin because there is nothing. So I ended up applying for, interviewing, and getting the opportunity to go to Canada, where I will have met Erica. So when I secured that, I was like crying, because I was like,
oh no, me too.
Because I was like, this is it. Like I didn't have these opportunities in my undergrad. I didn't have this growing up, and I was like, this is my first step. Like this is it. Yeah,
that's exactly how I felt too. And I really have to give it to Janie and Herman for picking people like us and giving us that chance, because truly that was my door opening as well. Yeah, like that's how I got into what I do now, and it's amazing to have been given that opportunity, really.
Yeah, and they probably had tons of more experienced people, or just other people, to like choose from. So I feel very blessed to have been chosen.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
Especially with not exactly a marine biology background, with just a very generic environmental science, but that love and passion for whales.
Yeah,
so,
that must have translated in the interviews, because like we are total like a whale obsessed people.
yes we are.
Not everyone's like that, I don't think.
Yeah.
No, sometimes I ask my husband, like, he just looks at me, I'm like, am I weird?
We all do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I go to Canada, and I do this, as Erica was saying the last podcast, like this incredible, like, just, it's like so hard to put into words because of how insane it actually was. Like what we were doing, like we lived on this tiny island with a few other people, and like we showered outside, and we used the toilet outside, this little like wooden thing, and like we slept in tents for like 2.5-3 months. We slept in a tent. Like I say that like it's no big deal, because we did it, but people are like, what? Like, you're crazy.
It was.
What was the weather like? Like, what?
It was
what season did you go into?
Well, it was a rainforest. It's the Great Bear Rainforest, so it's the only rainforest like in
that part of the world, basically.
Yeah, in that. Yeah, exactly. Like in the northern hemisphere or something, or North America. Yeah, and so it was always, but it was actually kind of drizzly.
Yeah.
Like,
but it was actually warm. It wasn't super chilly. Like I think we had, but they had said it was kind of also like an unusually warm season.
Which
like it wasn't.
I'm so thankful for.
Yeah.
It would be down to like high 30s though at night.
Yeah.
And we slept like just in sleeping bags. And I remember I just used a hot water bottle.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just amazing, because we would fall asleep to like literally these whales just like
right outside our tent.
Right outside our tent.
No way.
Just
it would drop off. It was a cliff basically that would drop off. So the whales were like 10 feet from us while we were sleeping.
What? Oh,
and you would just hear them like breathing, and they're resting
all night,
and like making noises.
Oh my gosh. Now, were these because you said this was in Canada, right?
Yes.
So was this was that humpbacks, or was that killer whales out there?
Humpbacks. Mostly humpbacks. We did see the northern resident and transient orcas. Like that was part of the research that they were doing, was on those populations, and fin whales. Those were the three.
Fin whales. Oh my gosh. Some of the best experiences with whales were up there.
I have yet to see a fin whale.
Oh my God. So I was just talking to Kristen. I mentioned her in the last podcast. She's one of the wildlife photographers that works at Newport Landing. I was just talking to her about this yesterday, how much in love with fin whale blows we are, because there's a sound that they make when they inhale that sounds kind of like a bell. Like a bell.
Really?
Yeah, but like
I'm gonna have to look it up now.
Low, like it's like so much air being sucked into a tiny tube. Like just that sound is so unlike anything on earth. It is so beautiful.
But yeah, like Erica said, we could have a whole show about our time in Canada.
Yes,
like I could talk forever. But I will continue.
We'll have you back on for another one where that's all we talk about.
Yeah, because I definitely want to hear that. I regret not doing that when I was younger, because I'm at that point to where I'm like, okay, I'm going back to school, and I'm like, okay, I'm married now, and I'm like, can I really go away for 3 months? I feel like it's just I don't know. I feel like it's more like I have more to think about when trying to do stuff like that now.
Is
so
very
that's
true.
my struggle.
That is true.
But good.
You understand, Kara. I mean, you had a lot going on.
I was gonna say I am currently married. At the time, I think we were definitely just dating my current husband and I. And I just kind of told him, I said, hey, which it's every relationship is obviously different, but I was like, hey, I have to do this. Like we didn't have kids or anything. We had had four cats and a dog, which we still have, but
but I was so happy to hear your cat is still kicking. Your old cat.
Oh no, that one did pass away. Not to put a damper.
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, you know what?
Jeez, Erica, way to ruin it.
No, you know what though?
I'm just kidding.
I'm looking right across the room at a photograph of my cat that just passed away about 6 weeks ago. So I understand. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So yeah, so it's I kind of told him like, hey, I have to do this. This is like an insane opportunity that only a few of us got picked this season. You know, only a handful of people end up getting picked.
That's true.
And it's just such a big opportunity. So he was really understanding, which as I get to, I just went to Iceland this past summer. So it was kind of another similar situation because I went for like, so, you know, just having that conversation, like, this is kind of what I have to do. And just like try to, you know, it'll be worth it. Yeah. So I go to Canada. I meet Erica and Fiona, and Herman and Janie, and you know, that was just like the craziest experience. And I get home and I was like, you know, on this high, like I just spent this time living on this tiny island surrounded by whales, and it was just like everyday whales, like never not a whale. Which was like awesome. My dream.
Me too.
So then I, again, like Erica, was in this like, now what? Like, I'm still in Wisconsin. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I gonna try to do? And like, my husband was going back to school, and we were just kind of like, okay, we're gonna stay in Wisconsin, and I was just gonna kind of find a job and just kind of live our lives for a little bit, you know. And in the meantime, like, I did a little bit of traveling and, you know, saw Erica and stuff. So then I ended up deciding to go to graduate school. And
cool.
So, yes. So I decided there's a program at University of Wisconsin-Madison, which was just an hour away from where I lived. And it's a professional master's. So it's not research or thesis based, but it's more leadership and stuff like that, which is really nice. And it was only 15 months. So it's very short.
Yeah.
It was very appealing.
I bet.
But still, that's 15 months of like just so much commitment, and like I'm so proud of you.
And is it more fast paced too, because
it's
such a short amount of time? Okay.
Yeah. So you start in the summer and you do, you know, you have classes in the summer, and then you have full time in the fall, and in the spring, all of your classes are online. So that's nice. I was able to like still work and do stuff. And then the real draw for me was, so the degree is in environmental conservation, but in the summer, your final summer, you do this placement, like a leadership placement. So that was like the draw for me, because like that's basically, it's like, I would say a step up of an internship, like below a job, like kind of, you know, it's basically the intent is for you to get experience with an organization that you like and support, and then potentially get hired on.
That's so cool.
So that's like the goal. Yeah. So while I was in grad school, I ended up starting a branch of the American Cetacean Society.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, because I was like, I need an outlet, because obviously Wisconsin people don't get whales. They don't understand why I'm there. What am I doing? You know, there's tons of coastal schools. Like, what are you doing here? So, you know, my focus was, I had to do something to kind of tie it in, because I couldn't, you know, that was just the best option for me for school. Like, of course I could have gotten to a coastal school, but that was kind of the best option. So I needed to make it work for me. So I started that branch of the student organization. A bunch of my like cohort mates, they joined it because they were just like being supportive and stuff. So we did some amazing stuff. We put on, we actually raised the funds, and then we went to the conference in November. So 2 Novembers ago, we went to California. Like, our school paid for just about everything. So we went to the American Cetacean Society conference, which was amazing. Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was amazing. Like, if you can go to any kind of conferences, like anyone listening, like, that is such a good opportunity to network and just to learn from people and meet people. You don't have to be affiliated with anything. You can just go as like a general public person.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's such an awesome thing. So I went, and I saw tons of amazing speakers and just met a lot of people. And I met Chris Parsons, which he does a few podcasts himself, and he's like he's a very pretty prominent marine scientist, and kind of in that world. But he was super friendly, and I was just like, hey, like, just talking to him, because I had wanted to do this conference at my university about anti-captivity, because that's kind of where so that's kind of where I stood. You know, it's a personal choice, so I'm not going to push that on anyone, obviously.
No, but I feel like we all are. Like, we all are. So we might as well just, like, that's what we kind of are.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, there's, if we're offending anyone, I'm sorry, but that's kind of how we feel.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he had given a presentation about basically the public's view on captivity, and was like showing all this data about, you know, if people are actually learning, if like they're going there for conservation, if, you know, the educational programs are actually educational. And he was, you know, presenting all this evidence, and I was just like, I really enjoyed your talk, like it was amazing, blah blah blah. I'm trying to do this kind of panel, like, with, at my university there's an Animal Legal Defense Fund student organization as well that I was a part of. Like, we were going to partner and do this thing. So this was before I knew who his wife was. So then we're talking, and he's like, oh, my wife might be interested. And I was like, oh, who's your wife? And he's like, Dr. Naomi Rose.
What? Oh my gosh. Was she there?
No, she actually wasn't. She was at she was at like a different conference or something, but I literally was like, oh my gosh. I know. So if she ever listens to this, like, I totally fangirled. It was so nuts. I was like, oh my God, I love your wife. And he was like laughing and stuff. So I was just, you know, totally fangirl. And I felt bad because I didn't know who he was, but I totally knew who she was.
Oh my gosh. Good.
You know. So I ended up giving him, I had made some business cards before I went to the conference.
Oh, that's cool.
So I gave him a business card.
Good job.
Yeah. So I just kind of gave it to him. I was like, oh, like, here's this, like, whatever, you know, just gave it to him out of, you know, a win, basically. So we go back to campus, and we're just kind of doing stuff. Like, our student organizations joined the sustainability committee on our campus to work on removing straws from the facilities on campus, and our platform. We were trying to just kind of do anything like that would help, obviously. So our platform was like land to sea stewardship. That was like kind of our tagline, our platform. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah. So like a few weeks after the conference, I get an email from Naomi Rose. Yeah. So I'm just like, what?
You're like, what is happening right now?
I was like, I didn't reach out to her. She reached out to me, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I was totally for young, to be totally honest. So Chris had given her my business card and was like, hey, like, my husband met you at the conference. He gave me your business card. You said you were interested in doing like a captivity panel kind of thing. And she was like, you know, I would be interested, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening. I was like, it's really happening.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was freaking out. So in partnership with our Animal Legal Defense Fund on campus, we got Naomi Rose, Lori Marino, who's like another huge fangirl moment for me. Some lawyers and professors from the Animal Legal Defense Fund and Lewis and Clark Law School. And then this kid, his name is Eon for Ocean. And he's actually based in Minnesota, and he does.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he does ocean conservation from Minnesota, and he's this like little 8-year-old kid who's amazing.
Oh my gosh, that is so adorable.
Yeah,
he is cool because that's right next to you. So
yes,
that's awesome.
So he was actually at the conference in California. And that's where I kind of connected with him. And then, you know, they came, and so we had these speakers, and it was amazing. It was like really kind of another turning point. You know, yes, I was going to grad school and started this student org, but I think making those connections and like having Lori and Naomi especially come, it was like insane.
Yeah.
Because then they kind of realized I was kind of, you know, doing stuff and trying to, you know, get into the conservation field.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm in grad school at this time, and it comes time to kind of decide what I want to do for my placement, for like the, you know, that summer into fall, you know, placement that's like the culmination of this whole degree. So I was like back and forth, and I really wanted to work with the Whale Sanctuary Project, which is what Dr. Lori Marino is working on. She still is. It's getting, gaining traction. It's getting bigger. But they weren't really in a place to support my internship. So yeah, and it was kind of a struggle because I was like, I really want to do this. Like I kind of wanted it to be pretty specific to like what I wanted to go into. So that's when I found the Beluga Whale Sanctuary Project.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that is through Whale and Dolphin Conservation Organization and the Sea Life Trust, or the Sea Life organization, which has, I don't know if you're familiar, there's like, they own a ton of aquariums, they own like Legoland, Madame Tussauds. It's like a huge, like attraction-based kind of thing. Yeah. But they have the Cornish seal sanctuary that's over in the UK, and then they also do some like turtle rescue stuff, and then they created this beluga sanctuary through their trust. Because they purchased an aquarium in Shanghai, China, that they were going to turn into a Sea Life, and they had some belugas there. They had 2 belugas there, little white and little gray. So so this organization doesn't believe in keeping marine mammals in captivity, so they had to come up with a solution, which ended up being the Beluga Whale Sanctuary, which is in Iceland, in southern Iceland. It's in the Vestmannaeyjar archipelago. It's on Jaime Island, which means home island. So it's South Island, Iceland. And fun fact, that is the same exact place and the same exact little cove that they kept Keiko when they were when they were trying to really
is that why they use that cove? Because they know that it's like successful?
That, and because Iceland was really receptive and like welcoming to the idea. Because they needed some kind of subarctic waters for the belugas, because that's kind of their natural ecosystem. So it had been used before, and the people kind of involved in the project had familiar they were familiar with the area, the people transporting a whale there. Basically, they kind of had some experience. So
that is so neat. I love that.
So I secured that internship. It was kind of tricky, had to find a place to live on this tiny island, which was also tricky. It was like a whole thing that I could talk about forever. But so I get there, and they also have puffins, like a puffin rescue.
Wow!
And an aquarium.
They have a rescue for them over there too.
Yes. Yep.
That's so cool.
So there was always like a puffin rescue rehabilitation facility on that island with an aquarium of the local species that was there previously. The locals just had it, and kind of, when tourists would come, the tourists would go there. But since Sea Life was kind of coming to the island, they were like, let's just put it all together. So they put it all together, and they have some resident puffins that aren't releasable, that actually live there full time. And then what happens, kind of a side story, but what happens every season is when the pufflings hatch and they try to take off to fly, they end up flying into the city, and they think it's the lights that draw them into the city, or they're just not really sure. That's
crazy.
So the people in the town, they like walk around with boxes. It's like a thing, and they like pick up little baby puffins, and they and they take them to the rescue, and they weigh them and clean them, and then they make sure they're okay, and then they go release them where they need to go.
Oh my gosh, that's so
I never would have thought that.
So that it was adorable, to be honest.
My goodness.
So I got to help take care of the little puffins while I was there, and they're just so freaking cute. It's like I can't stand it.
I bet they're the cutest. They're
so when I got there, the belugas weren't there yet, because there'd been a lot of delays from the weather and stuff, which was nice, because I was gonna get to be involved in them arriving and kind of acclimating to that stuff.
That's really cool.
So the day came, and it was, for me, it was actually a very difficult time. There was tons of people involved, like from all different organizations. Like
Oh, yeah.
SeaWorld had people involved. There was people that used to work for the US Navy. There was, there's these people that you don't imagine having to work with in this type of, organization and this type of goal, which the end goal is to put them into the bay so they can live in their natural habitat and, they're not performing and stuff. But then you have these people from like SeaWorld, the US Navy Marine Mammal Project, and just, kind of, in my eyes, the enemy.
No, I get that. Yes.
So why were they there though? That's
because they have Iceland? Yes. So the belugas came from Shanghai. They flew them to Reykjavik, and then they trucked them on these huge 18-wheelers down to the down to the south of Iceland, put them on the ferry on these trucks. And then the trucks, came and they had this whole maneuver thing to get them out of the trucks.
Oh my gosh. That's so it was sickening. It's so I mean, they don't even like know that they're going to like, almost just like such better conditions. They just think they're like dying the whole time.
Yeah, it was so for me,
you should never be put in those situations.
Yeah. And so that, I kind of had a different perspective. There was a few people that I felt the same as me, or just kind of I can relate to, which was his name is Rob. He's from Whale and Dolphin Conservation Organization. He's amazing. And then Kathy Williamson, which was who I spoke to like kind of get this internship. Like she was there at the very beginning, but had to end up leaving. But those were the people that honestly I like related to the most, because I felt like emotional for these whales. Like I felt how stressful they were probably feeling. Like, how scary that was.
I was just about to say, I could see it being very emotional, like just thinking about it. And I'm just kind of putting myself in your shoes for a second. And I was just kind of envisioning, like, I could see myself just almost breaking down. Like I could see myself crying for something like that. Cause it is sad. You realize, they're going to something better, but at the same time, the stress that they have to go to, that when it probably shouldn't have happened to begin with. And
well, that's exactly it. They shouldn't be having to deal with this in the first place. They never should have been taken out of where they came from. Yeah, but exactly. It just gives me shivers.
Yeah. So it was extremely hard to watch, and I mean, I was really glad that I was there to kind of see how it does happen, and just be there for this once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. And so myself and the other employees, like at the sanctuary, we kind of there was a head trainer. His name's Harry. He and I were friends now. I would say we're acquaintances. We got along great. But at first I was hesitant. I was like, he's a former trainer and all these these places, and I was like, what is his thought process? Like, why is he here? Because I just felt like I needed to know what everyone's prerogative was. Like, what are you doing? Like, I was like, like I had any effect though. I was like, what are you doing here? What's your, what's your goal here?
That's I completely get that.
Like, I felt,
especially if you guys are all there for a reason. Like, you guys are all there for that, release in a sense. So it's like, what is everybody else's mindset towards it? Like you said, there's people from SeaWorld, and I would be sitting there going, okay, what is your intention? Like, what are you thinking at that moment? Like,
and I mean, and their goal was to get those whales there safely, because they have the most experience in transporting marine mammals from facility to facility, which is a not a good thing, but also necessary in this situation. So it was kind of a learning opportunity too, to like, you have to work with sometimes with people that you don't want to work with to get a end goal that's, that's a good. So so that it was honestly extremely emotional. And as soon as, they kind of got there and they started the process, I was emotional. Like, I was borderline. And then I started to cry.
So, I would have been the same. I would have been a hot mess.
I didn't stop crying for like a week.
Oh
no! I'm serious. It was honestly, it was somewhat embarrassing, because I'm like, I'm this professional, and I'm here for, to advocate for these whales and this whole project, but I can't stop crying.
I don't think that was bad at all. I think that shows like exactly. You care so much.
Yeah.
Like, that's so
I feel like we
pure. Like,
need
we
more
need
people like
you.
that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
gosh.
Rod Lott, he was the guy from WDC, you know, he was like, you know, really, he was really, really nice and amazing, because he was like, it's okay, like, I totally get it, because he is literally like, through their anti-captivity campaign, like, they were the reason that this kind of all happened. So, you know, he was there to be supportive and stuff. And, you know, there was some incidences when they first got released into the pool. They were extremely stressed, and they kind of did some self-injury, not on purpose, obviously, but there was just a lot of stuff happening.
Right.
So that just made it even worse. And
Yeah.
then you have people telling you, like, that's okay, this is like a paper cut to them, they'll be fine.
Okay.
And it's like, that's not the point. Like,
Yeah.
you're minimizing the stress and emotional distress that these animals are experiencing right now, and I like can feel that for them. So yeah, so it was a tough time, but then, you know, as the days went on, it got better. A lot of the people left, and I felt like everything kind of calmed down a lot and kind of went back to normal. So it did take a little bit for me to like be okay, but I did. Yeah. So their Chinese trainers stayed. There was 3 of them, and then, or there was, no, there was 4. I'm sorry, 3 male trainers and a female. And then Harry, he's a British guy. So their trainers were there. They, you know, I felt like they kind of started calming down and stuff. So then the daily tasks of taking care of the puffins and getting the food ready for the belugas and all that kind of just, you know, leveled off. And while I was there, I actually was working with the Icelandic Orca project as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, so they do they do their research from southern Iceland every summer as well. I didn't necessarily help them as much as like just kind of was there to, I guess, offer assistance. Like, we did some land-based stuff. We went on the boats a few times, but they had like their own volunteers coming and stuff. But I made some amazing connections and friends through them too.
That's the best.
Which was amazing. And so I came home from Iceland. I did my final project. I turned it in, and then this past December, I went to Spain for the World Marine Mammal conference. Yeah, in Barcelona.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
Which was amazing, and I met Ingrid Visser, who is like my number 3 like female icon of all time, and she was amazing, and it was a great time because I was able to network with a lot of people and meet a lot of awesome people. And so that's kind of the last thing that I've done in marine mammal stuff is went to that conference, and now I'm home and just kind of figuring it out.
That's really cool.
So that was
that's really cool.
Long version that I could even talk more about.
Well, ours was long too, so it's perfectly fine.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh,
that's really cool. My total side note, but like, because you were mentioning a couple people that you like fangirled about, I want to meet Sylvia Earle so badly.
Yes.
I can't even. Okay, so you guys know that she was in Monterey recently.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Like,
you should explain who this is, so people like. We should start explaining who like the people that you said are.
That's true.
Tell us like a little bit about their background and stuff. And same with like I want to know your top 2 female idols too. But we'll go back to that. But yeah, so explain first who the person that was just in Monterey is.
Oh, Sylvia Earle. So Sylvia Earle, actually, I never even explained this in the first podcast, but it didn't come to me until right now. But when I watched Mission Blue, that's actually what kickstarted me wanting to actually be like way more serious into marine biology. I totally forgot to mention that. I've watched it like probably 10 times. So for those of you that don't know, Sylvia Earle is a badass. She's like the founder. Oh, my alarm just went off. Sorry. Blue, and she travels around and the team, and they do campaigns and try to help with creating hope spots around the world, which is awesome. So it helps they just spread a lot of awareness. And God, how long has she? I'm trying to think of when she started diving. She was the first woman, I think, to be in some type of team to be able to go in the submarine and dive, and she was like the only woman, I guess, in that group. That, yeah, it's I need to watch Mission Blue. I need to freshen up on it because I haven't watched it in a while, but I've watched it so many times, it's crazy. I love Sylvia Earle, and when I found out that she was in Monterey, I heard it on the Whale Nerds podcast. My husband came to me, and he actually recently brought it up. He's like, "Oh, do you remember when Sylvia Earle was here?" I was like, "Don't even." I'm like, "I'm gonna cry right now." I'm like, "Don't even talk to me about it." Like, no joke. I'm like, she was 2 hours away from me, and I didn't even know, and I wasn't there. Like, it seriously makes me so sad that I did not know she was in Monterey, because I'm like, when is that gonna happen again? He's like, "It'll happen." I'm like, "You don't know that."
Yeah,
it makes me so sad, but she's awesome. And I just actually saw a bunch of different posts that she was in, oh gosh, she's traveling right now to a couple different conferences.
If she ever comes down near here, like right around where am I right now? Long Beach or somewhere like that, or maybe LA. I mean, that's kind of not really between us, but closer to me. But you should come visit, and then we could go to her talk.
Yes, I will gladly drive down there. Gladly, just let me know. You know, it's hard too, because I tried tracking, like, to see where she does her campaigns and stuff, but I haven't been able to find like a good source. Even the Mission Blue, maybe I'm just not looking in the right spot. But I even tried to see like where she's going, like what colleges she's visiting to do her speeches and stuff, but I can't find like an updated calendar, I guess, so to speak. So I'll look into it more and see, because I know she's traveling right now, but I have no idea where.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Kara, what was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Naomi Rose is she kind of pioneered the research. She was one of the first people to research the southern resident orcas out in Washington.
Cool.
She did that for her dissertation and stuff, I believe. And now she is heavily involved in animal welfare. She works for the Animal Welfare Institute out in DC, with captivity, their anti-captivity campaign, and kind of she gets involved in that a lot. She was involved with like Blackfish and stuff, and she's kind of turned into but her stuff is not to say she isn't an advocate or she doesn't but she is heavily scientific, which I think is awesome, and what you need in that field. So she bases all of her arguments and like everything on science, which
I love that.
Okay, that's awesome.
So she's she speaks the truth based on facts, and of course she's passionate about what she does, but it's just she's like, this is just inhumane because of these scientific proven things.
And I find that so interesting, because I feel Eric and I kind of mentioned in the first episode that it's a very controversial topic to bring up to a lot of people, so you don't want to, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like in general, if you feel that strongly about it, at the same time, I just feel like you can express it in a way to where it's not going to be pushing it on people, but at the same time, you're educating people. And I feel like there just has to be that balance, to where if you want people to listen, then there's just a respectful way to do it. And that's awesome that she does it that way.
It's definitely impactful, because she is extremely intelligent and she backs it up with facts,
See, that's perfect.
And then you have Dr. Naomi Rose, who is insanely intelligent. She was one of the first people to discover self-recognition in dolphins and captive dolphins with mirrors, like self-recognition in a mirror.
I had no idea. That's really cool.
So once she learned that, she kind of realized, like, wait a second, these animals are extremely intelligent and social and emotional, and that's kind of she steered herself out of the captive study side, and just kind of now she advocates for them based off science, because the intelligence in their brains, because she's a neuroscientist, so she studies the brain and like intelligence, but she also is just an advocate. Also, she runs this center. It's called the Camilla Center for Animal Advocacy. So she does a lot with scholar advocacy, is what she calls it. It's basically, intelligent, scholarly people with, degrees can also advocate for non-human animals without being classified as a crazy activist,
Yes.
Oh.
So that's her mission. Her and Naomi are both on the board and help run the Whale Sanctuary Project. Lori is like the president. She's like the head of the Whale Sanctuary Project, which is gaining some traction, and they're hoping to open the first one up in Canada for belugas, to retire some belugas too from captivity. So cool. Yeah, up in Nova Scotia. So she's doing stuff with that still. And then the third person I mentioned, which is like my trifecta of females, but I also like dying to meet Kim Balcom because I've never met him. So
oh man, I've been to we've been there together.
Yes, we went. Erica mentioned we went, or she had been to San Juan's before. We went to Friday Harbor together when I visited her, and it was just like the cutest town. Wow. It was amazing. Yeah. But yeah, so Ingrid Visser is my trifecta, I would say. And she is a New Zealand scientist that works with the orcas out there, and she also does a lot of advocating for Morgan at Laura Parque, which is a very sad situation, but she's very, very passionate. She has the Free Morgan organization that she's involved with. So she works very heavily with that. And I finally got to meet her in Spain, and it was like amazing. And we kind of, there was this poster, there's a gentleman like representing Laura Parque, which he wasn't a scientist really. He was, we don't really know who he is and like what he was actually doing. But Laura Parque basically paid him to come there and just kind of have this poster about captivity and how it's like more beneficial for the animals and all this stuff. And it was like a whole thing. Yeah. So we stood there and like not debated. We tried to have a civil conversation, and Ingrid was right there just kind of hammering him like, these are the facts and you're just presenting lies to the public. And
Jeez.
So it was really amazing. So those are like my three, the trifecta for me.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Girl power.
You're so inspiring, Kara. Like you make me want to become more involved. Because right now, like, I feel like I'm educating about whales in the hopes that it inspires children to care. So it's kind of like the building blocks of that, but I want to go deeper, So I would love to, like, I don't know, work on, like, talk to you more about something. And figure something out that we could do together.
So I'm currently the advocacy chair for the American Cetacean Society. I kind of help them with advocacy stuff, and because that's kind of, I think, an avenue that's not explored that much with like organizations or with smaller organizations. Like, it's a very public, divisive topic, but I don't think it's actually explored that much, because it's so divisive. I think people get scared and they're just like, oh.
Well, the only way to change that is to like spread the word more, because the more that people see it, the less scary it becomes. And so just more people need to be that way, and not like how I kind of, even in the first episode, alluded to. It's if you want to please everybody, then it's just, I don't know, if you want to express your opinions fully, you're gonna offend some people, but that's okay, because the more that they hear about it, the less scary it is. I don't know.
Right. And just the way you approach people too, I feel like makes a big difference, because there's activists out there that go to extremes, and then some people think, oh, well, if you're in a way trying to get the word out about something specific like captivity, then they automatically think, oh, you're one of those people.
Exactly.
So, and that's why I like this podcast, is because then we're also, we're able to connect with other people, like with you, Kara, and it's I just find it really amazing because we're just sitting here talking, but we're able to connect with other people and talk about these topics and spread the word, even if it's just, 5 people listening, 10 people listening. That's more than,
no people listening.
People listening.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I feel like even one little thing can make a difference, because that person can go talk about it to someone else, and then it can lead to this person, and you really don't know who will stumble upon it and then just complete, like, if they have a bigger following, or if it's somebody that's really into, already into marine biologists, and they're like, oh, hey, we loved your podcast, and by the way, we spread the word, and then bam. So you just never know, and that's why I love this platform.
Yeah. Yes. So, Kara, or sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, what are your suggestions as the chair of, what was it?
Or the advocacy chair for the American.
Yeah. Yes, that is incredible. So as that, like, what do you suggest we can do? Like, what do you think are like some like 3 steps that, people can do that make, things slightly better?
I think the first one is to really try to educate yourself. Like, you don't need to depend on these places like SeaWorld or places like that to learn something. You can learn at your house. You can learn, anywhere you like. You have the internet at your fingers, like on your cell phone. You can educate yourself, and there's non-biased, information out there that kind of, you can make your own decision, and that obviously is a personal decision, but at least you have the education to back that decision and why you chose to, do what you decided to do. And I also think, so that would be my first thing, is educate yourself before you even go to these places. If you decide to go, and if you don't, then that's great. But I also think spreading the word. You don't have to, shout from the rooftops. Like, if you just tell if you just tell your friend like what you know or what you've learned or something, an interesting fact or something, like that person's gonna be like, oh wow, and then they'll probably tell someone, and they'll, So I just think like educating yourself and then sharing that education with people is super powerful and impactful, as long as it's respectful, factual. You're not trying to, say something crazy. But I just think, those are 2 really important things. And then I think the third thing is to really, I guess open your eyes to like kind of the bigger picture. Like, because I think people get really focused on small things, and that could really be related to anything in life. But I think, it's important to have a starting point, and if that small thing is the starting point, that's great. But I think eventually you need to open your mind to kind of a bigger picture, like an end goal, and don't get tunnel vision and focus solely on something so small when you could focus on a big picture that has a much bigger impact.
Do you have like an example of what you're thinking of?
I mean, to take it on a huge scale, I think like climate change. That actually impacts everything. And I think people kind of get in this really concerned like niche where like, I just want to focus on this aspect. And which is amazing, because you're trying and you're putting an effort, and you're doing what you can, but you still kind of also have to be cognizant of the whole picture. Just something simple like that, or even plastics are super, super harmful for the ocean. We know that, or just the earth in general. But you kind of have to take a larger picture, like, where's the plastic coming from? It's coming from consumerism. So like, as a consumer, that's kind of your responsibility then to educate yourself, and then kind of take the actions that you can.
Amazing.
I also think that a lot of people have the mindset is, well, I'm just one person and it won't make a difference. I feel like a lot of people have that mindset, and I feel like if people can change that, like, you know what, this, like, a lot of times, this is like kind of silly to say, but a lot of times I'm like, you know what, and I make jokes with my family about, I mean, a joke to an extent, and I'll be like, oh, I did not kill a sea turtle today, like, and we'll I try to keep that mindset, like, I don't I feel like so many people use that mindset. And
Yeah.
if you just go, you know what, I did make even the smallest difference, it was still something. That's one less straw, one less piece of plastic that's going to be going into the rivers or going into the ocean. And it can make a difference. But I've come across a lot of people to where they just have that very narrow type mindset where they're like, it's just one straw. What is it going to do?
Yeah.
So I feel like that can definitely make a difference.
Yeah. And that's where you educate yourself, and then you try to maybe educate them, or just, you know, give them a little push and just be like, hey, like, what if you just didn't do this for like one day? Like, that could make all the world of a difference. And, you know.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was like, this could be like a whole other topic of a podcast. Like, so many things could. But I think it's really important for people that study marine biology or anything ocean related or anything environmental related to, it gets very overwhelming because the state of the situation,
Yeah,
you know, the environment isn't good. The ocean, there's a lot of stuff happening. But I think I'm on these Facebook groups and I follow tons of stuff on, you know, social media. And sometimes I feel myself like getting upset and like wanting to just like pull back, because I'm like, it's so overwhelming because all of these people either have negative thoughts or negative comments and stuff, and it's just super overwhelming. So I just think anyone studying something like this, just, you know, remember why you're doing it, because you love what you're doing and you care for that stuff. Like, you know, you're inevitably going to run into some negativity, but you just have to really remember why you're doing it, and just like
the bigger picture,
keep going,
stay positive.
Going.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was at the Whale Fest in Monterey a couple weeks ago, and it's funny, it just kind of happened this way where my husband and I got there, and it was about almost 1:30, and they had the booth out by the wharf, and I bought this book called Blue Mind. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, and it's from with Nicholas Wallace. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I'm like, I've never heard of it. But so I bought the book. It was signed already. So I bought it, and they said, oh, he's going to go present in the conference center. And it's the new conference center that they just built in Monterey. So I was like, oh. So I was like, do you want to go listen to it? And my husband's like, yeah, sure. That'd be fun. So I'm like, I don't even know this guy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Because really, I'm still getting my my foot in the door. So this was like kind of the first type of presentation / conference that I've ever really been to. And so I was like super excited. I'm like, I have this guy's book in my hand. I'm like about to go listen to him. And it was really interesting. But there was one thing, I could probably talk about it more later on. But there was this really interesting point to where he said, I don't know why that there's not any more education out there in elementary schools about the ocean or just about water in general, because he's like, it has everything to do with us, but we know so little about it. And I thought that was so interesting to hear, because I never thought about that. It's like you take biology and you do this stuff, but he's like, why isn't there more out there for something that means that's part of our lives so much?
That's really interesting to hear, because that's kind of so I work on in the education department at Newport Landing, and I feel like our program is still relatively small and very much growing, and we run these science cruises for elementary school students. I was on one today, and then we also do one for like high school students, and they're science cruises. So basically their school rents out the boat for 2.5 hours, and then we partner with a nonprofit called Crystal Cove Conservancy. So it's this marine protected area. So we bring the kids out to this marine protected area, and then they do a plankton tow where they're
that is so cool.
Yeah, so they're going to look at plankton, then we do this whole plankton talk and tell them how important it is and everything. And then we do digital fishing. So they do fish surveys by dropping a GoPro down into the water at different levels, and they look for and then they record the video, look at it later, and then count all the different fish species that they saw. So they're testing the biodiversity and like the health of the MPA, the marine protected area. And then we also do, oh gosh, what else do we do? There's one other project that we do. science, plankton. Oh, and then water quality testing, just like you said,
Okay.
testing the pH and whatever. And the data that the students are collecting on their field trip is actually used by the government to like watch the health of the MPA and to make decisions on how to like make the MPA better, or if it needs to be a marine protected area. And this is habitat that gray whales migrate through. So it's like, it's so cool. And so we are really trying to implement like programs like this for these students. So that's really cool.
That's really cool because I feel like that's teaching them. It's like they're contributing to the community and to research, but yet they're having so much fun with it at the same time.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I think we have so many things that we could talk about.
I do have a question for you, Kara. Okay,
Yes.
I have to ask this. I know it's like, okay. So I was talking about this to Erica earlier, and I was like, I have to ask her this. So I've always wondered about it, and I have a friend that actually wrote down a like list of questions that she has. So over time, we'll answer them on the podcast. And one of them was about belugas.
Yeah.
And why they look like on the side of them, why it looks like they still have like a leg, if that makes sense. Like they have like that imprint almost.
Yeah.
And I know I'm assuming that, you know, over time and evolution that maybe had something to do with it. But yeah, I'm really curious. Do you happen to know?
So they have this bulge, I think is like kind of what you're referring to. It's like on their on their sides, like on the planks on their side, and I cannot for the life of me remember there is like a scientific term, but it's just a muscle. It's actually just so
that is so weird.
I thought it was so weird.
Every time I see a picture, I'm like, did they have legs?
That I mean
eventually once
I'm sure they did. The closest relative, if I remember correctly, of cetaceans is a hippo.
Oh, I think even earlier than that, it was like a dog type thing.
So they very well could have had some kind of appendages, but currently it's like this, like I honestly, I'm gonna have to look it up after this because it's gonna drive me crazy. But it's like this like bulge thing, and it's a muscle. Yeah,
cool.
It's like a big. It's this weird. It does look very strange, like 100%.
Yeah,
You're
it
like,
really does. I mean, it looks like it's just gonna pop out any second. They're gonna start walking. Like that's what it looks like to me. I'm like, I have to ask her this.
That's funny.
Well, Kara, I cannot. Yes.
Once you figure out what that's called, let us know, because I know the listeners are dying to know at this point in the podcast.
I can't be the only one on here that wanted to know this question.
So let us know.
I remembered. I did. It's called. They're called rails.
Rails.
Oh,
hey, that's really cool.
Okay,
rails. That's what they're called.
Oh,
awesome.
Not as exciting as you probably wanted it to be.
No, it is exciting. I thought it was going to be something like peduncle or tubercle or something.
I mean, rails is probably not like super scientific, but that's what they were. That's what the trainers and everyone refers to, and the scientists that were there, they refer. It's called rails. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
That's very cool. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we should probably wrap this up, but I don't want to because I love you guys so much, and I love
this is so much fun.
This is so awesome. I am obsessed with the direction that this podcast is going. I don't know. I just really like it. Even though we're, second episode, but I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun and I really enjoy this.
It is a lot of fun. And I love the fact, I mean, I know I've probably said it a million times. I just love the fact that we can just sit here and talk about it. And there's people out there that want to hear it. I think that's why I'm like, when I get messages, they're like, oh, loved your podcast. I'm like, you did? Thank you.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like, it's still weird to think that there's actually people out there listening to it.
Like random people that you don't know. Yeah. You're just like, oh my God.
Like, you're a whale nerd just like me. Thank you so much.
That's funny. There is probably people that I don't know actually that listen to it, and that's really cool. It's nice to meet you guys.
I saw the analytics, and there's people in Canada.
Oh,
there's the United Kingdom. I think
Oh my
someone
gosh.
from
Tell us
New
who that
Zealand.
is. Ah! Oh, I wonder if I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if my friends in New Zealand listened. I was chatting with
Maybe,
I need to mention them because my two best friends that I met, well, along with, Fiona, but my two best friends that I met when I was working down in New Zealand is Alan and Annika, and they also came and stayed with me in Washington, and we've just stayed in touch, and they are just my absolute like soulmates. Like truly, I love them so much, and that would be really cool if they listened. I don't know. Let me know, Annie and Alan,
That would
if
be
you're
really
listening.
cool. I'll send you like a screenshot at the end of this, and then you can send it to Kara.
Yeah.
Great. You guys can see who. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think we might have to like dedicate, because I know we talked a lot about like the backstory about you, Kara, and like other stuff. But maybe we can dedicate like a full episode to like belugas or something.
Sure. I would love to.
I think that would be really cool. Yeah. We'll definitely talk about it.
Yeah. I'm here anytime.
Yay!
Yeah. Yay! Well, thank you so much, Kara.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Honestly, it was a lot of fun.
That was so
interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, you guys. So if you guys have any questions or topic suggestions, or I don't know, just anything, you guys can we'll try to put our social media out there. You guys can follow the main page. Instagram is just OceanLovers podcast, and then we'll try to tag Kara in it. And
you know what we should do? Let's tag all of the girls, like the women in science that we mentioned today.
Oh my gosh.
Tag them in.
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll come up with a post. We'll post it tomorrow on Instagram, and we'll communicate with all of us, and we'll try to get them all tagged on there.
Okay, sounds good. But
yay!
Okay, let's wrap this up. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for today. It was awesome.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for listening. We'll see you guys in episode 3.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.